The jump. A calling card of platforming games. From Super Mario to Revita, from Shovel Knight to Dora Saves the Snow Princess, jumping in video games has always remained a constant form of movement, and we very well wouldn't have a lot of the games we know and love today had the jump not been popularized. We've seen many revisions of this jump. From wall jumps to glides, double jumps, and bouncing off of enemies, it's hard to imagine gaming without them. Now, if somebody told you that beating Super Mario without jumping was possible, you would probably laugh in their face. But what about games where jumping is more secondary? Games where the jump is seen as more of a tool in your arsenal rather than a core game mechanic. Could you beat one of those? Well, today I'm here to answer that exact question in a game all of you watching this video already know: LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Immediately off the bat, you may be trying to think of how the game is laid out, and you may ask yourself, I guess there really aren't many places I can see jumps being required in. But you'd be dead wrong. Every level has certain points where the game expects you to jump. It could be as optional as jumping over over some boxes to save time, or it could be as explicit as the game telling you jump, or die. This mini-series will be split into 3 parts, each one revolving around its specific trilogy, and today's we're starting with the prequels. Before we delve into the actual run, let's create some ground rules. First off, how are we defining jumping? In the simplest terms, an action performed with the A button or spacebar outside of a menu or dialogue is a jump. Jumping is a jump. Double jumping is a jump. Hovering is a jump. Gliding is a jump. Jump comp. Combos count as jumps. You get the deal. If the game gives you any jump, prompt, such as these logs or onto one of these monkey bar things, that is a jump. But now, let's talk about what isn't a jump. Grappling. Because you can grapple from straight off the ground, grappling is not considered to be a jump. This means in situations like this, grappling is your only way to traverse. You aren't allowed to jump from bar. To bar. Dodging. Kind of. This is a weird one. So dodging doesn't actually give you any height in-game. Even if the dodge in question is a front flip, you still gain 0 height. However, because front flipping and back flipping as a force-wielding character is very clearly supposed to be a jump, we won't be using that. Dodging with anyone who has a roll instead of a jump is fine, and sidestepping is usually always fine. Again, these aren't going to be useful at all since you don't actually gain any height by doing any of these, but it's just good to clarify. Jumping. Into vehicles. A lot of the missions in the prequels require you to fly back and forth to Coruscant over and over, and the game plays a jumping animation no matter where you are when entering into a car or a ship. This will obviously not count as jumping. Boosting with vehicles. Even though it's done with the A button, the game calls it a boost and it gives you no height, so this is obviously not going to be a jump. Lightsaber cutting. There are sections of the game where you have to either cut open doors or ride up a wall with your lightsaber, and this obviously is not jumping. It's a pretty clean-cut explanation, but I know somebody would mention it. Any other specific examples along the way, we'll cover them at that point. Next up is defining how the run will be played. I'll be using a brand new save file, and every movement I make counts. Whether I'm in the middle of a level or walking to and from levels, this is all part of the run. So sadly, yes, I will have to sit through the 5-minute Padme escort on Coruscant. Just fucking kill me. This challenge was a journey, one that took me far longer than I want to admit. Out of every single level in the prequel trilogy, a select 4 levels took me over 12 hours combined to beat. That's just about 3 hours for each level on its own. So if you really enjoyed the work I put into this challenge, it would mean a lot if you not only liked the video and subscribed to my channel, but also shared the video around. Sharing a video really impresses YouTube's algorithm, and I'm still a really small channel just trying to grow. But with all of my shameless shilling out of the way, let's finally answer the question. Can you beat LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga without ever jumping? The first part of this run is surprisingly easy. The first area we start in is a Trade Federation station. That's actually really fun to say, and it's pretty straightforward. Just make sure to not do any jump combos while fighting droids, and head to your ship. Follow Jar Jar down to the Gungan City, and make sure to not fall down in the center area of this room. If you do fall down in this area, just swap to another character to avoid having to jump. Back up. The section after this is a vehicle level, which we can obviously just skip over and head straight to Theed. Once again, Theed is just a flat area with no jumping. So this as well is pretty much just a skip. So far 3 areas in, and this challenge seems to be a cakewalk. But I promise it gets much harder and much more interesting. Right after Theed we find Tiny Hitler, I mean Anakin, and we do another non-jumping vehicle-only level. But this is where the run gets challenging. Right at the start of our first boss fight, I realized something. This level has a forced jumping section. This was going to become a running theme within this challenge. 3 levels in a row with 0 issues, then one 3-hour-long level. This was one of those 3-hour-long levels. To start off, we tried brainstorming ways to get across this gap. We had 3 original ideas. One was to build a bridge out of the guardrails and control panels to easily just walk across. We accomplished this by using the weird push physics of the game. If you walk into an object with another object behind it, both get pushed forward with pretty much 0 resistance. This method had a couple of major issues, however. Number 1, if you fall off, you had to walk all the way back up to the elevator, take a blind fall onto an object, and re-walk across the super jank bridge and hope you don't fall again. Definitely possible, but super difficult. While it may not look like it, the gap from the gray walkway to the black walkway is too high for you to get over without jumping. So you have to push from the gray. The height also slightly changes with every black walkway, which means the objects get stuck between these. If you wanted to get past this, you'd have to force over a smaller object, stand on top of that, and then redo your entire setup. This made it borderline impossible, since forcing one object broke multiple others and we only had a finite number of resources. So we scratched the bridge idea. Our next idea was to use force combos to damage boost across. Obi-Wan has a combo where he slides someone under his legs and throws them forward. We could maybe try this and time it just right to gain iframes on the character switch and walk across the electricity. However, the electricity is not a damage plane, it is a death plane, meaning you don't gain any iframes. And even if we did make this jump, we wouldn't be able to get the other player across, so scrapped idea number 2. Everything we tried was failing. I was close to giving up. We couldn't force throw an object with somebody on top because it broke on the player immediately if they didn't just fall off first. Not to mention, to try any of these tricks, it took a whole 2 minutes to reset, since you had to walk all the way back around to the top of this bridge and fall off to land on something off the ground. There had to be something else I could do to make this work. I had been live for 3 hours, 2 of which were already spent on this level alone. What could I possibly be missing? And then it hit me. 2-player modes in LEGO games have always been buggy, especially in the Skywalker saga. It's not well optimized, frame rate almost cuts in half, and it's overall just a very weird experience. And I was going to use this to my advantage. Previously in this level, I had messed around with the mechanics of forcing an object with another player standing on top of it. And if that player then forces another object, it prevents them from falling off, for the most part. Now what if both players then stood on an object and then forced each other's at the same time? Alright. Ready? Go, Qui-Gon, where are you going, dude? I can't see the ground. Where the fuck am I? This was it. This was our ticket out. I'm not gonna bore you guys with all the details and the caveats at this current time because there was only just one. Just don't bump the platforms above you or it will knock you off. This trick is super precise. You not only have to position your platforms in a spot where they won't bump the circle or that overhang, but also keep an eye on which direction you're facing so you don't drift the wrong way. You fall super fast in this game, and you're going to need the maximum amount of height to make this fall. The setup requires you to grab 2 specific large platforms, of which there are only 3 in this level. If you mess up, you have to restart the entire level. You place these platforms at the very edge of one of the circles, hanging just a little bit over the edge. And do the same for this section in the middle. Climb up the elevator and fall on top of them. The further away they are, the better this trick will work. You then have to force both at the same exact time and pray you don't bump anything on the way up. Pay very close attention to what direction you're facing, and once you bump the skybox, cancel your hold and start drifting. Now the first time that I made it over, I ended up out of bounds and had to restart the entire trick. But then, after a collective 4 hours on this level, this happened. I had finally made the jump. So many hours of my life wasted on this dumb, ridiculous setup, but I stuck the landing. All I had to do now was trigger the Darth Maul fight, and I'm soft-locked. Yeah, so apparently our little sequence break right here forced me into an invisible box where I couldn't escape combat. I was just stuck here with no way out. So I had to restart once again. But as the odds would have it, I managed to pull the trick off a second time. Out of almost 50 straight attempts, I made this twice in a row, and this time I was way more prepared. I aimed to land on the top again, and have player 2 warp to me. I then entered in player 2, so if the soft lock did happen again, I would have a way out of it. I then triggered that sweet Maul cutscene, and this time there was no soft lock. I was able to go forward and beat the full level. From there, all I had to do was the Gungan section and the final vehicle level, and the Phantom Menace was complete, with 0 jumps. It's kind of wild to me that out of all 5 levels in the Phantom Menace, 3 are full vehicle missions. And thank God that's over. I'm sure Attack of the Clones won't have anything like... God damn it. Attack of the Clones starts off with 2 vehicle missions and no jumps. In the overworld, a pretty good start. Then, the worst level of the entire run begins. Droid Factory. Now this level has one of my favorite tricks in the run, but it's ruined by the piss-poor performance of the game. The Droid Factory level runs at about 15 frames per second, making it just infuriating to play through. This is the only level in the game that's like this for me, and it's extremely annoying. I put the game in windowed mode to increase performance ever so slightly, so bear with the quality for just a minute here. I'm gonna make this quick, but just know this level took me over 4 hours on its own. Okay, so what are the issues with this level? To start off here, you are split between 2 groups of characters. The first one being Anakin and Padme, and the second being R2 and C-3PO. Everything progresses fine up until this point, where you're forced to make a jump. From your main conveyor belt onto a bucket to another conveyor belt as 3PO and R2. So how do we accomplish this? Protocol droids have the unique ability to break into 2 pieces, and when that happens, the top part of the body gains a little bit of height. The goal here is to sprint off of your first conveyor belt onto the bucket, then get to the edge of the bucket, break apart, and land on the second belt, and hope to God your legs and R2 warp straight to you. The setup for this is very tricky. The buckets are always moving, so your timing has to be precise for this jump. To properly make it onto our second belt. This was the second hardest thing in this level. Once you make it over, you progress as normal, and then do the same exact trick again, which is slightly easier because you have a wider area to land on. Now, the level gets really hard. As Padme, grapple onto our top bar. Then once the walls shift, drop down on top of this bar, but don't grab it. Pan the camera over as far as you can so your player 2 warps on top of this platform. Then switch to Anakin. This part is complete RNG. You cannot control when your partner player will warp to you, so try to get them as far away as possible before doing the Padme tech. But this isn't even the difficult part. This next part, the final part of the level, was painstaking for me since I didn't really know what to do. You're supposed to grab this line to grapple on down, which requires you to either jump or simply just touch the rope. Problem is, you can't be hit up there without being in hit stun, which won't allow you to interact with the world, so two-player isn't going to work. I tried many different things. First up, just trying to warp Annie and Padme down to R2, since at this point in the level, they're supposed to be all together. But the checkpoint that merges the two groups into one is way too far out. I tried to force a droid onto our zipline to see if Padme would chase it down, but an inactive player isn't allowed to grab it. I wandered around for an hour trying various tactics, but here's where it landed me. Take one of these droids and force it on top of the elevated ground, so Padme jumps up there. Then enter in two players and position yourself between Padme and the line. Drop out Padme. Start an attack combo on Padme, of 2 light attacks and 1 strong attack, or any kind of combination of those buttons until Annie uses the force to throw Padme over his head. Right at the apex of that combo, switch to Padme and hold in towards the line. You should grab it and float perfectly right on down. It's not the most complex thing in the world, but to figure all of that out took me ages and I almost gave up. It isn't over yet though, because there's still one last hurdle. You have to jump up and grab these 2 bars. Now this is very easy to do with Padme. Just grapple. But the other one won't be so easy. Now looking back, I could have probably just used the force on 3PO and switched over to him, but I chose a much cooler strategy, and used the break apart ability to give C-3PO just enough height to grab it. And that is the end of Droid Factory. The next level is the battle on Geonosis, and it's fairly simple. It doesn't require any kind of special tech. And the same goes for the battle against Dooku, but there is one small catch. On your way towards the Dooku level, you have this section right here, where you have to build a trampoline to go up. You aren't allowed to switch characters to a grappler or anything like that, so you're forced onto this trampoline as your only option to go up. But here's the good news. You don't need to actually press jump to activate it. You just have to walk onto it, so it's more of a bounce than anything. Now I know it's a big technicality, but you technically aren't jumping. At all. The game is just pushing you up. It would be the same exact thing as the game putting you in a cannon and just shooting you out. You really aren't doing anything to jump. Other than that, the Dooku fight is pretty straightforward. The game forces you out of your lightsaber climb automatically, so no need to worry about jumping. Out of that. And that pretty much covers the entirety of Attack of the Clones. 2 episodes in and still no jumps. This seems to be going actually really well. Maybe almost too well. Now next starts Revenge of the Sith, and we hit our first roadblock just 2 levels in with the fight against General Grievous. All is going well until he starts up his second phase, where he climbs up this wall and waits for you to follow him up. The only way to progress through this is to slide up, grab the beam, and then jump. You don't have enough momentum to make it all the way over by just dropping. I also tried doing a strong slam attack to get a little bit of extra height, but it didn't work. My next strategy was to stack up all of these random objects so that I would be able to drop off onto them and just simply walk up. But if something is in the way of your lightsaber climb, you aren't able to move at all, and things were starting to look a little bit dire. I got a different vantage point as Commander Cody to look for different ways to approach the situation. And then I realized something. I didn't have to technically make it on top. All I had to do was force push the button that activates the elevator. So I climbed back up, positioned my camera, and saw that between leaving the bar and falling down, I had about 1 frame to hit the button. Sadly, after about 20 minutes of trying, I realized it just wasn't possible. I think I have to be on some kind of land or ground in order to actually use the Force. This was kind of heartbreaking. I couldn't hit the button, I couldn't climb up. What was I even supposed to do? I tried putting Commander Cody on top of things and just simply forcing him up, but it just didn't work. He would just consistently fall off of the object before reaching the top. That was until I noticed these stackable blocks over here. So these Force-specific crates have the unique trait of always facing straight up. They never tilt, making them the perfect platform for standing on. All I had to do was get Cody on top of one of these and force it up. I couldn't do it over here since if the Force blocks are released too far from their source, they despawn, so I had to do it at the origin. Luckily for us, this level is very janky. Yeah, you can kinda just walk up the side of this railing, but only on the side railings, and once on top, carefully walk over to our crate, and you'll be able to stand on top of it. Then have Obi walk you over, step off of it carefully, and repeat for side 2, and it really is just that simple. And once again, we don't find much trouble for a long while. A majority of this episode is just walking back and forth, and there really isn't much going on. The only thing I can consider to be even remotely hard is the Kashyyyk level, in which you have to carefully drop off of this bar right here at the end, so you can re-grab it and climb on top. Whenever there's any kind of height to go over, usually your player 2 just kind of warps above it, like here. But as we all know, all good things must come to an end, and this challenge is sadly no exception. Let's enter our final level of the run, the battle on Mustafar, Obi-Wan versus the new Darth Vader. After a couple of easy fights in the interior, Anakin and Obi-Wan end up outside, where we reach, regrettably, our first unbeatable challenge, our first forced jump. And it's not just 1, 2, 3, or 4 jumps. It's 23 straight jumps. Now I swear to you, I tried everything. Getting out of bounds, dying over and over, entering in 2 players to play as R2 from above, but nothing will get you past this. I have to just accept the L and keep moving forward. Okay, so 23 jumps. It's bad, but at least we're sub like 30, right? Right? No, because once again, we are forced to jump. In our next section, where you play as both R2 and 3PO. This section makes you jump between these 3 boats, 2 jumps. For each. I tried doing our droid factory strategy of just breaking apart, but because the platform right here in the middle is a jump, exclusive platform, you aren't able to move on it or do anything besides just jump. Meaning our only solution here is to jump . Once onto it, then jump. Off. Then do it again on this ship, totaling 4 jumps. Which puts our total at 27 for the level. So at least we're still sub 30, right? The sad thing is, even if you choose to do this in free play, you're still locked to 25 total jumps. The game forces you to play as Obi-Wan during important sections, including scaling this pillar. When it comes to our next part, however, with perfect RNG, only 2 jumps are required. The way this level works is weird. If you die, it will randomly respawn you on either the R2 panel side, the middle ship, or the 3PO panel side. And since you can't just walk off the edge, you have to jump at least once to die, and then get a good respawn. But with perfect RNG, this could only take you 2 jumps to complete. I know it's kind of hard to understand the weird respawn thing here, but just trust me, it's completely possible. But with that, our total number of jumps for the prequels sits at 27 for story mode and 25 for free play. All of those jumps are in the final level of the trilogy, which really just adds salt to the wound. If you're interested in seeing me attempt this for the other 2 trilogies in the game, leave a comment down below. YouTube loves that kind of engagement, and I would really love it if a series like this took off on my channel. Share with your friends, Discord, Reddit, whatever you use, but again, only if you feel like it. If you also have any ideas at all about me beating that final level with no jumps, also leave those suggestions down below. It just kinda bums me out that it has to end like this. Well, regardless, join my Discord, like the video, whatever you wanna do. I've been bd1p. Peace out, and goodbye.